We'll just give a couple of seconds for everybody to go ahead and get settled in for today's webinar.
Good afternoon,
so
all.
many familiar faces already. And again, we'll just give it a couple more seconds. All right, well, greetings everyone, and happy Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar, Update from the Caribbean, CXC Examinations 2021 Administration and the Impact of COVID-19. Just a couple of housekeeping items while everybody gets settled. We are using the Zoom webinar platform for today's webinar, and so your mics and cameras are disabled by default. If you have any technical issues during the webinar, please use the chat function and select all panelists, and I will work directly with you to get it sorted. If at any time during the webinar you have questions for our panelists, please use the Q&A function. Please note that we will be holding all questions until after the presentation. And with that, I would like to turn it over to ACRA's Associate Director for International, Julia Funaki.
Thanks, Annetta. Welcome, everybody. We're glad you're here. I am going to advance my slide, I hope, so you can see meet our presenters. Let's see. There we go.
We just lost your deck, Julia. Do you want to go ahead and share the screen again?
Yes, let me do that. Let's try this one more time. All right, is that good?
You got it.
All right, excellent. So I'd like to thank our presenters who are here with us today. Let me introduce them. We have Dr. Wayne Wesley. He is the Registrar and Chief Executive Officer at the Caribbean Examinations Council. Joining him is Dr. Nicole Manning, the Director of Operations and Examination Services, also at the Caribbean Examinations Council. They're going to share with us today just an overview of the CXC, the administration of the exams, some impact of the COVID and where they are today. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to them. And Dr. Manning, you can now share your screen.
So I think Dr. Wesley will speak. Dr. Wesley, can go ahead.
Oh, okay, no problem. I just want to at least give my own greetings to all who are a part of ACRA and the grouping of universities across the United States. It's certainly a pleasure for CXC to continue with this engagement. We started this last year, Julia, with the group, and I'm hoping that it will perhaps be a continued feature of our collaboration and effort even going forward, not because of the pandemic. Yes, the pandemic perhaps would have precipitated an even more rigorous kind of engagement and more detail being shared and presented with your audience. But I think it is something that we should maintain as a matter of facilitating information and clarity on the products and services of CXC and what that means for the various institutions associated with ACRA, and how we can work to sort of eliminate some of the challenges that one would experience when new students are applying for universities abroad. So we are very grateful to have this opportunity to share with you what we have been experiencing over the last couple of years. Yes, the COVID-19 pandemic would still continue to impact our operations, but we still try and maintain as much as possible our students not being disenfranchised or disadvantaged in any way, and at the same time still protecting the integrity and the confidence that overseas institution would place in us as a regional organization that ensures that quality is maintained, the reliability of the results given are maintained, the integrity of the examinations are maintained, while ensuring that students still have enough time and access to further their education abroad. So we are mindful of the challenges, we are mindful of the commitment that we have given both regionally and internationally, and we continue to work assiduously to ensure that that confidence remains in the work of the Caribbean Examination Council in making students ready for matriculation into universities abroad. So, but that being said, COVID-19 has still impacted our operations. We have sought to make some amendments, which involves the delay of examinations, and I won't go into much of that because Dr. Manning will be outlining all of that to you. But certainly we had to give some consideration given that there were some learning loss still this year because some schools were still unable to start up at the time that they wanted to. And we had to take those into consideration, the delay and as well as how that will impact the readiness and the availability of results at the end of the examination period. So Dr. Manning will actually outline and present more detail on that, but just to say to the team that we are cognizant of the challenges and we are trying, while formidable, I think it is not insurmountable. And together with this kind of interaction and collaboration, we should be able to work through a system that is to the benefit, redound to the benefit of all the key stakeholders. So thank you very much, Julia Fognacki and the ACRA group for accommodating us and continuing with this kind of dialogue, which I think is essential for us to move forward and allowing our candidates to have access to their education. So thank you very much, and I look forward to the dialogue after this.
Thank you, Dr. Manning. We appreciate those kind words, and we too look forward to the continued collaboration of our two groups. So with that, Dr. Manning.
Okay, thank you very much, Julia. So as the registrar, Dr. Wesley would have mentioned, we in the Caribbean region, we were not spared COVID, and we have other what we call natural disasters that are also at our doorsteps. So we just have to move on as best as possible. And as was mentioned, we really do not want to disenfranchise our students. Now, that said, I want to take you through a couple key components of what we would have done this year. So given the COVID-19 challenges across the region, that's the first consideration. We did have some regional consultations to bring us to the point where we are, because as you know, we are servicing not only the Caribbean, but we do serve other candidates who may have traveled, who live in other jurisdictions. And so we have to have the necessary consultations. And then I'll go to the examination strategy. So first and foremost, regarding the COVID-19 challenges, I won't go into this too much because we would have spoken about this last year, and you are aware of what's happening during the across the world. It's no different here in the Caribbean. The only thing I will add here is the fact that we at CXC would have provided general guidelines to ensure that the examinations are administered as they would have done in the past. And so there are components we would have had in our regulations, examination regulations years before, and those regulations would have included matters similar to COVID. So we have how you treat with the management of the examinations given a contagious disease. And, you know, it's hindsight when you have robust systems that they are now able to serve us well. So in relation to that, we are able to administer the examinations with consideration and in the context of the protocols as they exist within each territory. That said, we would have continued this year with our regional consultations, as we would have shared last year. And in so doing, we were able to reach to some level of consensus. In these consultations, we spoke with, of course, each of our ministries of education within their territories. But what was also very important is that we would have also allowed them to have the consultation, because what is most important is not only the candidates being assessed, but also the release of the results in the shortest possible time to the candidates as well as to the universities and colleges. And as I move on, I will speak a little bit more about that. Now, coming out of that, the examination strategy that we would have decided to utilize this year, I must say, will include a couple of things. So one, you are aware that the examination has three components. It has an internal assessment, which is commonly called a school-based assessment, managed more so at the center level. Then we have the paper ones, paper twos, and paper 3-2 if it is a private candidate. And I'll speak a little bit more about that. But let me focus firstly on our school-based assessment. So for the school-based assessment, we are administering it. It is being done. It was done for the candidates who would have completed their school-based assessment. And we are going to be doing the moderation across all centers for all subjects. In addition to that, we would have for this year provided a treatment of syllabuses and the SBA handbook, because what we found is that it was necessary to get the students very focused and to ensure that candidates would understand, and teachers, the other methodologies that can be used in carrying out this particular assessment. As we are all aware, a lot more have been done electronically, and because of this, we had to provide some guidance in these areas. In addition to that, where we would have also considered some adjustments to what we have as the requirements for the school-based assessment. And those adjustments, of course, did not affect us in terms of what we have considered, and Dr. Wesley would have mentioned in relation to the integrity and quality of the examinations. I must also add that we gave an extension to the candidates in relation to the submission of their SBAs, because of course, you know, given the COVID-19 challenges and what would have been happening in various homes and across the territories, we had to look at this again, because we want to make sure that we give everybody the best opportunity to perform. So we did provide an extension for the submission of the school-based assessment that extension would have been provided to the candidates. CXC has started, and I must say that we decided to administer all papers for all examinations as we did in previous years, both for the Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examination CAPE, as well as for the CSEC, which is known as the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate Examinations. Now, as you're seeing here, and I mentioned, we have three main components, papers 1, 2, and 3-1, which would be the school-based assessment. And for the private candidates, they have to do what is called a paper 3-2. So that's another paper. Now, our papers are designed to best understand and garner the competencies of the candidates. So for each subject, you may have a variation, and I must say, let me explain to you what I'm saying. For the modern languages, for example, you will have an additional paper because we have to treat with understanding the competencies or evaluating the competencies, I would want to say, in the spoken language. So in addition to the 3 papers, in some instances, you do have 4 papers administered, but all of which would have been how we would have administered it in the past. Now, the examinations would have commenced on the 28th of June, 2021, and they are expected to end on the 30th of July, 2021. The results for the CAPE and CSEC examinations will be released in the last week in September to the first week in October. So we have 2 layers. We release examinations to our ministries of education, and we do a presentation to our ministries, and then we release to our candidates. Now, we had a situation, as you would have been aware, in the St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where we would have had, in addition to the ongoing pandemic, we would have had a volcanic eruption that would have affected St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So on the island, they are trying as best as possible, and I think they have made very good strides to see how best they can have the candidates ready for the examinations. And so what we have done is to extend the commencement date for the examination for those candidates, because of course you have to give in consideration that they need more time to prepare. So those exams will commence on the 2nd of August 2021 and will end on the 3rd of September 2021. Now, a very important notations that yes, the examinations remain robust because, as I said before, we are administering the examinations as we would have done in previous years. I must also add that we are expecting that the grades will be comparable with previous years. What CXC has also done in relation to assisting candidates in understanding their grades a bit better, we have created a video and we have placed it on the website to give more insight to candidates and others in terms of how CXC grades. In addition to that, we also have maintained the availability of transcripts online. We are still providing that service where transcripts are available electronically, with physical copies also sent to the universities and colleges. We also have a facility available for the direct transfer of grades to university or colleges, given the candidate's approval. So let me give you a little bit more on that, because that would be very important for you. In relation to the fact that, yes, the grades will be issued the last week in September to the first week in October, the last week in September for the ministries of education, and the first week in October, to the candidates. Now, these grades, while they are provided to the candidates, it usually takes some time for them to issue them to the universities, to their university of choice or college. So what we have done, this is not new, but we are promoting it a bit more in terms of ensuring that the candidates who will say to their university, we want CXC to directly transfer the grades to you, so that you will get it in a more expedited manner, as well as you will be able to make your decisions far easier. So this is very important, and this is something that we have been promulgating. I must also add that where candidates deem that they are not ready, of course, in consultation with their parents, they have been offered the option to defer. So candidates do have that option to defer some or all of the subjects that they would have sat this year. So they would have registered for the subjects. And we are saying that they can defer to January or June 2022. For the first time this year, we have decided that coming for the January 2022 examinations, that which I would have described as a school-based assessment, we are also accepting assessments for that period. And so candidates who would have deferred, they are also able to defer the completion of their school-based assessment. So they have more time to complete that. That should be submitted by the end of October. So candidates do have various options, and that will help them to relax a bit more and to understand that we are here to work with them, candidates and their parents. So we are providing that option. For January, however, we have a more limited sitting, and we have as you're seeing there, biology, chemistry, what we call English A and English B. English B is referred to as the literatures. And this is for the CSEC, which means the Caribbean secondary examination. And though that examination is offered to our 11 graders. So those persons who will be sitting the examinations as you are seeing on the screen. So that's a more limited sitting. So if it is that candidates would have deferred, they may have deferred to do some of their exams in January, and they may have completed some of their exams in June. Those candidates can be offered preliminary acceptance because, of course, as a university or college, based on the number or the requirement for matriculation, you may want to accept in terms of accept the candidate based on what they would have completed and the results you would have been provided with in September going to October. And then you may say, okay, those candidates may be doing additional exams in January. So you may want to offer them preliminary acceptance. So we're just putting it there on the table so you understand that there are options where we would have shared with the candidates, and there are options for the candidate to utilize in terms of application to their university or college of choice. The exams in June 2022 remain the same. That is the expectation. And those examinations will be the full listing of what we normally offer. That said, we continue to have resources supporting teaching, learning, and assessment for our candidates. We recently even launched what we call Student Central. It's a portal dedicated to our students so they can readily access the information that we would have provided to them. So like the handbook that I mentioned earlier, the sharing of some of the sharing of the general objectives and topics 5 weeks before the exams. That's also on Student Central. So you can go and you can also share, you can also look at what is there. I must also say that we have a learning hub which facilitates learning and exam preparation. It is where the teachers, they usually utilize this learning hub very much, and we found a great increase for utilization given COVID. Here it has the entire suite of the qualifications, as well as teachers, as I said before, can create their virtual classrooms to interact directly with their students in real time. Now, that said, we at CXC, we continue to in our development mode, and we will continue the engagement with you also as we seek to continue our innovation in ensuring that not only the facilitating teaching and learning, providing teaching and learning facilities, but also to ensure that our examinations and assessment process remains robust. That said, that I must say thank you. Over to you, Julia.
Thank you, Dr. Manning. It was very interesting and very helpful to all of us, I think. I would like to take this time to thank Dr. Manning and Dr. Wesley for their presentations, but also to take the time now to have a period of questions and answers. And we did get a few questions coming in, so I will pose the first one. We have a participant that asked, can you explain what the papers mean? Are these subjects tested?
Okay, so when I defined paper one, let me give an example. Say, for example, a candidate would be sitting a chemistry paper. They'll sitting chemistry at the grade 11. I mentioned two components. I mentioned the examinations at the advanced level as well as the secondary level. So they'll be doing a paper one, which is a multiple choice paper. Paper two, which has extended items on it, as well as paper 3-1, which I mentioned would have been the school-based assessment. That's usually a project or a research that they have to do, defined by the teacher, given the guidance in our syllabus. which is available online to all. And then I did mention for modern languages, we do assess the competencies of the candidates in the spoken language. And in addition to that, we do have for like the performing arts and theater arts, of course, practical representation from the candidates of their competencies. But those are, when I mention papers, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, and when you say the extended items, I assume by that you mean an essay.
Essays, short answer questions, that kind of thing.
Great, thank you for that answer. We have another question, and it says, so CXC is working on a facility to directly transfer grades to U.S. colleges and universities. When will this be available? How would it be received? Is it via parchment, via another service? Could you just talk a little bit about that?
Okay, so we do have the facility in place, and we do this is done electronically. So what would happen is that your candidates would agree for the release, the early release of their results directly to the university. And we would work with you. So you just need to indicate that your interest in that. We will guide you through all of what is required. It's actually a data transfer of the candidates' grades for each subject as they would have completed. So that is already available. You just need to identify and tell us your interest in this, and we will provide the information accordingly.
So I just want to clarify for our listeners too. So the interest comes directly from the institution in receiving results this way, rather than the applicant, the student.
Right. So the student normally requests a transcript to be sent to the university, or they normally, depending on what the university requires, scan and send their results. What we're saying is that there's a facility, however, where the university can say, I have X number of candidates who would have applied to the university for whatever subject. I mean, we program. We're not necessarily interested in the program. What we're saying is that you will give us the information as to which are the students and so on. But we will have an agreement with you to transfer those, and how we will transfer them, we will also provide that. So the only thing the university needs to do is to indicate to CXC that they have this interest, and then we will work with them to get it done.
Okay, very good. I'm looking to see, does that answer the question for everybody? Yeah, let's see. There's a follow-up to that. I think it's covered. Verification includes the examination subjects and grades. Yep. Yes.
So Julia, the question is being asked, who will the institution contact? So you can share our contacts. You have my email address. You can share it, and they can send the email, the request directly to me.
Great, wonderful. As institutions are interested in doing that. Okay, I'm looking to see if we have any other questions. I see a few more things coming in. Lots of thank yous. Okay, let me follow up with a few other things I want to tell you about ACRO. And in the meantime, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to put them into the Q&A. We will go back there and look again before we close the presentation to see what else we might have. But for now, I'm going to just tell you about a few other things that we have going on. Let's see if I can't do this time. All right, hopefully you're all seeing that. First, I'd like to tell you just about our online courses that we have here at ACRO. We have been very busy in the last year plus working to put together content for you, our members, to help you along the way. And this is particularly true in our international series of courses. We have 10 courses now. They are affordable, they're self-paced, stackable modules, and we have integrated them with digital badging. There are more courses to come, but this is a sampling of the international ones that we do have available. Also, about to be published, we have a Caribbean Offshore Medical Schools publication update. This was put together by our International Education Standards Council's fellows. You can access it once it is there, and I assume it's going to be, I hope it's going to be this week still, on our ACRO resources page under the ACRO International IESC. You'll also find there work from past fellows, including the tools to determine how to award advanced credit 13-year education systems. Also, we just released in April, the Guide to Bogus Institution and Documents. This is really a great publication. You'll recognize many names that contributed to this. It looks at the wide range of fraudulent practices, including transcript fraud, accreditation mills, secondary school credential fraud, bogus high schools, fraudulent evaluation services. So a great volume for you if you are interested in this subject and want to follow up on what's been done over the last couple of decades. Also, some of you may be EDGE subscribers already. If you are not, EDGE, the Electronic Database for Global Education, is a tool that ACRO provides, and you and 3 other colleagues can sample it with a free trial. And you can determine if it's an appropriate tool for you, although I think you'll find it is, for no cost or obligation. You'll find the form to sign up for that free subscription, and that link is given here. So you begin your access, you start looking around, and you see what this can do for you. It also gives you a tool on your campus that everybody can be using the same tool and citing the same source. So that's a nice benefit of this. Finally, continue the conversation with us. This is our website. You know where we are, and we would love to hear from you. So now let me go back, stop sharing, and see if we have any more questions in our Q&A. I don't see. Contact information. We will share that contact information with you momentarily. And if not, this recording will be available after the presentation today if you would like to listen into it. Any other questions? All right. Well, I do not want to keep people on longer than they need to be on. Dr. Manning is currently, I think, typing in her contact information as we speak. Let me see if that's in there.
Yes, I sent it, Julio. Are you seeing it?
Great. Let me see.
Are you seeing it? Okay.
Yes, let's see. Thanks for sharing. I don't see it in there, but perhaps I'm missing it.
Perhaps, Dr. Manning, if you just responded to the question in the Q&A section rather than in the chat, it might.
I did.
Oh.
I sent it in the Q&A. I'm hoping that it went, but I did send it because the question has. Yes. Let me see. Show. Can I get, yes, it is showing there on the.
Go ahead and paste it in chat for everyone as well.
Great, thank you. I was just about to do that. Thank you, Annetta.
Oh, it was done, thanks.
Perfect, thank you.
No problem, you're quite welcome.
It was in there, I just missed it in the Q&A. All right, well, we'd like to thank our presenters and rest assured that if there are updates that they will share them with us and we can share them with all of our members. We appreciate the collaboration we have with the good people at the CXC, and we look forward to continued collaboration. If you have any questions or you'd like to follow up with us in any way, please feel free to do so. I will also put my email into the chat, and you may contact me as well. Make sure I spelled it right. There you have it. All right, with that, without further ado, thank you to our presenters, Dr. Nicole Manning, Dr. Wesley. Thank you, Kiana Beckford and Richard Rose, for your assistance in putting this together from the CXC. We appreciate your time, and we hope you all have a great day. Happy evaluating.
Thank you very much,
Take
and all the
care.
best to you and your team.